Welcome to the finest Grand Prix circuit in the world. A full stop. Look at it. Sepang. Magnificent facilities, room for passing. The drivers love the track. Something they don't like though, air temperature 32 degrees. Track temperature 35 degrees. Humidity 58%. Rubens Barrichello has had a nasty batch of flu. He's starting fourth on the grid. Not at all happy. David Coulthard has had some food poisoning. He's fitter than he was, but is he going to be all right in this atmosphere? It's a funny atmosphere, actually. It's a sort of end of term. The Drivers' Championship may have been decided, but you know about the Constructors' Championship. There's all sorts of other people who will be looking, apart from Johnny Herbert in his last Grand Prix, to make their mark today. Jenson Button's last drive for Williams. Alexander Wurz starting a magnificent and absolutely superb fifth on the grid, the first non-McLaren or Ferrari, driving his last race for Benetton. Nick Heidfeld, thankfully driving his last race for Prost. He's had a dreadful season. And Mika Salo is driving his last race for Sauber before he joins Toyota to test their new car next year. Ricardo Zonta, next year's Jordan tester, is driving his last race for BAR, and he was fastest this morning in the pre-race warm-up. But it's also Prost's last race with a Peugeot engine. Minardi's with Ford, Arrows with Supertech, Jordan with Mugen, Benetton with Supertech. And it's Bridgestone's last race with a monopoly of tyre supply before Michelin joins the fray next year. So, Michael Schumacher, pole position, yet again, just 0.5 of a second between him and Mika Häkkinen yesterday. 0.2 of a second between them this morning. Mika Häkkinen's closed the gap a bit. And then, as we've come to expect, the other McLaren and the other Ferrari. But also watch that third row of the grid, Alexander Wurz and Jacques Villeneuve, because they're respectively in the Benetton and the BAR cars. And those teams, as you've already heard, are fighting for fourth place in the Constructors' Championship. Well, you've been down there, you know what the temperatures are like, you know what the feel of it's like, Martin. What's your guess?
25% chance of light rain. There is a weather front out there somewhere, could move this way. Don't think the teams are taking it too seriously, but with a track temperature of 35 centigrade, just the incredible residual heat around this place, I think it'd have to be quite heavy rain before it started to affect the cars out there. So, one stop last year looked pretty good. Johnny Herbert had a great race on one stopper in the then Stewart, and Michael Schumacher really had to go as slow as he could to give the race away twice, and he was on a one-stopper strategy. So I'm expecting the bulk of them to do that today. Of course, they'll have to work out where they are on the grid, who they're around, what they might be able to do to make advantage. A few teams out there really could do with scoring some points. Jordan must be one of them. BAR too need to get a few points in the bag to confirm their position in the championship. So in the lower placings, some jolly good scraps to watch out for, and an intense battle between the together 5 times world champions that are sitting on the front row of this grid.
And you can see in the background, when you're now in the grandstand, the facilities here really have to be seen to be appreciated. They are quite incredible. We're about to clear the grid and start the formation lap. 3.4 miles each lap. There's going to be 56 of them in the race. And although you've heard it again, I'd like to repeat the fitness of the drivers is going to be an absolutely critical factor today. Michael Schumacher, certainly the fittest on the grid. David Coulthard, you heard Tony Jardine say he sees him as the second fittest, but he's taken a bit of a pounding in the last couple of days. Rubens Barrichello, not at all well. Mika Häkkinen, you can never, ever overlook. Don't miss the fin.
Yes, Häkkinen was absolutely exhausted on the podium here last year, remember. Absolutely just barely holding himself up. But he did have that tough race trying to second-guess where Michael Schumacher was going to be quick and slow as Schumacher was backing him up into the pack. And, of course, the championship was still up for grabs at that time. So mentally a very stressful race last year for Häkkinen. But I think this could be the toughest race, will be the toughest physical and mental race of the year, despite the championship for drivers effectively being over.
Two long, almost parallel straights make this circuit absolutely unique, because they run around them as they are doing now. They're up to turn 4 at the present moment, which they take about 75 miles an hour. And then the circuit sort of loops around with a series of all kinds of corner, most of them pretty quick. Turn 7 that they're approaching now, they take it about 110 miles an hour, accelerating. We're with Rubens Barrichello now, and they're coming up to the slowest corner on the circuit, which is turn 9. It's about a 55 mile an hour bend, and they take that in second gear. This is it, and you're seeing it from Ruben's car. Ahead of him, there's David Coulthard. That oil on the track with the cement dust came from the local Heroes touring car race, and hopefully has been well cleared up. Now they're approaching the first of the long straights. It's called the Penang Straight, and it comes to a speed of about 185 miles an hour, and then they brake to 65 miles an hour for the 15th and last turn on the corner. Here they are coming up the Penang Straight, the Kuala Lumpur Straight, which runs almost parallel to it, and which you'll see in a minute is exactly the same length, leads into that classic requirement for a good Grand Prix circuit, a very fast approach to a very slow corner.
Yes, one man to watch will be Jenson Button down there in 16th place. Unusually for him, not hooked up to this track. Look how wide it is, and he struggled to find the groove. A Formula One car's almost dwarfed around here, particularly with those magnificent grandstands you can see in the top right-hand corner of your picture. And Jenson not hooked up, but looking forward to seeing if he can do anything from that 16th on the grid.
So, as I said, they'll be hitting a very considerable speed by the time they get to turn 1, which they take in second gear at 60 miles an hour, under the eyes, of course, of everybody in the McLaren garage and the Ferrari garage. It's a tense time, with approximately an hour and a half plus of racing as they filter from the approach into the 2 lanes. On the right-hand side, you see in pole position Michael Schumacher, on the left, Mika Häkkinen.
Well, in these temperatures, they've certainly taken a long time to form up on the grid. The cars at the front have been sitting there well over half a minute. They'll be extremely, extremely hot. Lights are on.
So the last Grand Prix of 2000 is in Malaysia, and it is go! Now, good start it looks like from Michael Schumacher, but Mika Häkkinen yet again has got ahead of the Ferrari. Schumacher tried to cut across and failed, and David Coulthard is right up alongside as Alexander Wurz tackles Barrichello, and round the outside of them runs the BAR of Jacques Villeneuve. A terrific start.
I'm pretty sure that Häkkinen moved a long, long time before the lights came on, but brought the car to a halt, and he may get away with it. I think there's a spinner down in turn 1, but Michael Schumacher having a stab up the inside, and a wheel is off. Whose is that? It's an Arrows and a Sauber.
Yeah, it's an Arrows and a Sauber at the back. Can't spot which one. It's likely to be Mika Salo, I think, and Jos Verstappen. Well, there is De La Rosa in the other Arrows, but meantime, Coulthard has got ahead of Schumacher. McLaren run first and second. Let's have a look.
Yes, Coulthard had a good start, ran right round the outside of Schumacher, tried to come up the inside of him, and there is the carnage into turn 2. An Arrows bouncing around, and at least 3 cars involved in that. The Sauber, the Arrows,
Martin.
And car 1 is under investigation by the stewards. That is Mika Häkkinen. He moved way before the lights went out, some kind of problem with the clutch or whatever, but miles away. But the difference is he brought the car to a complete halt. He may get away with it.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. David Coulthard didn't get away with it, you remember?
Safety car, Murray, sorry to interrupt. Safety car is deployed. There you see the SC boards for the drivers and the waved yellow flags. Too many wheels and cars hanging around in turn 2 and that zone, and they will have to bring they have brought the safety car out.
Well, meantime, of course, this will give the stewards a breathing space to deliberate what happens about Mika Häkkinen as we look at this replay. And remember that Jacques Villeneuve made an absolutely terrific start in the BAR from 6th on the grid, sprinted up to 4th, and that is De La Rosa restarting in the Arrows.
It was very similar what the Häkkinen did, that Coulthard did on the start in Indianapolis, but Coulthard was actually still moving, and Häkkinen brought the car, in my view, to a complete halt. So there is a slight difference, and that's why I think there is a small chance he'll get away with that. But now the safety car is out, they'll start recalculating now. They use so much less fuel cruising around at this speed. The safety car's going faster than you might imagine. The Formula One car's tucked up in first and second gear, but they're using a lot less fuel, and already the teams will be recalculating the strategy. And there are the three drivers out: De La Rosa, Heidfeld and Dinitz, and Jenson Button making up 6 places on that first lap.
Funnily enough, it is in many ways worse to start and then stop and then start again. They get a clean start right away.
I'm not with you.
Well, I mean, you've lost the momentum, you're thrown, you're looking at the bloke on the left, and then suddenly you have to gather it all up and go.
I see you're talking about Häkkinen in particular rather than the start in general. I understand completely what you're saying now. Yes, often that puts you completely off your stroke and you miss the second part of it, but Häkkinen got away reasonably well. I think Michael Schumacher had a particularly poor start. Looks to me like the Ferrari is very, very heavy on fuel. Schumacher and struggling on that first lap. Well, we also saw Häkkinen with 2 wheels on the grass as well. I've just seen a medical car come in the pit lane. I don't think the safety car will be out there very long while they clear this away. Not absolutely sure why they had to bring the safety car out, say, you know, the track is completely clear, but I guess they had to recover those wheels.
Well, there was a lot of contention, remember, in Japan when the governing body, the FIA, issued an instruction through race director Charlie Whiting that in the event of any team tactics which resulted in balking, there would be a very severe penalty. Well, now Mika Häkkinen is leading this race. David Coulthard could potentially try to delay Michael Schumacher, but he'll have to be very careful indeed how he does it.
Now the safety car will come in, his lights are off, look, he will come in the pit lane, and Häkkinen assumes the role of safety car driver, and now Michael Schumacher's got to somehow stay as close to David Coulthard as he can, but he has not done so. Will Häkkinen release Coulthard if he's under a problem with a jump start? So will Häkkinen do that? We'll have to wait and see, but both McLarens away well and over the line. They cannot overtake until they pass that start-finish line.
So McLaren, Ferrari, Häkkinen, Coulthard, Schumacher, Barrichello, and then as you can see the Benetton and the BAR and Eddie Irvine down in 7th position in the Jaguar, which is exactly where he started. So the race now begins.
And he releases Coulthard. I believe that's Coulthard going through. Yes, Häkkinen releases Coulthard and Michael Schumacher trying to make something of it. Now watch Häkkinen on the right-hand side of the grid. Now this was the start proper. This was not a replay of Häkkinen jumping the start. So look, he got away well. Schumacher tucked in his slipstream and Coulthard then powering down the outside. And Coulthard will now keep that position all the way around the outside of turn 1. Häkkinen, I think, doing a good job to back Michael Schumacher into the apex early and give his teammate a chance to come up there and help him.
And look at Villeneuve, you see at the start there, at the first turn 1, this is a replay, trying to run round the outside. Now look at the conflagration at the back, which is about to happen. You can't see it, because now you look at David Coulthard, and the Ferrari has got ahead of Mika Häkkinen, and Barrichello is trying to go through as well, and he's done it! Ferrari runs 2nd and 3rd. I don't know what's happened to Mika Häkkinen. Did he let David Coulthard through deliberately, or has he got some sort of a problem? Because he's now been passed by 3 cars. He was leading, Coulthard passed him, then Schumacher passed him, and now Barrichello's passed him, and he's down to 4th position.
And Wirtz having a look as well there into turn 15. Did Wirtz get through? No, he did not. Why did Mika Häkkinen lose so many places? It just seems like he just had a bad run out of turn 10, I think that is, and really strange. Häkkinen having a nightmare 2 laps of this race.
Yeah, that was a replay of Barrichello nipping through on the inside of Mika Häkkinen, and you can see how close Alexander Wirtz is. Last race in the Benetton, Villeneuve is still in 6th position, Eddie Irvine is in 7th place. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has had a superb run because he's come up from 10th to 8th position. Johnny Herbert is down to 9th place. Jenson Button has absolutely rocketed through the field, as you just heard from Martin. He's gained 6 places. He's up from 16th to 10th, and you can see him in the background there, challenging Mika Salo. No, he's past Mika Salo now, and here come the leaders. There's Barrichello, there's Häkkinen, and there is Wurz followed by Villeneuve, so Mika Häkkinen is severely under pressure. Lost places. Remember, what Ferrari are after is just 3 points to win the Constructors' Championship. At the present moment, they're on 10 points with Michael Schumacher in second place and Rubens Barrichello in third position. Long way to go, though.
Joel, just to finish Häkkinen's afternoon off, he has been given a stop-go penalty, so Häkkinen will have to come in. That is a cost of about 28 seconds to him for that 10-second stop and go. By the time he's negotiated the pit in and pit out and slowed down, so Häkkinen then, his afternoon ruined. I do not see him coming back to challenge for a podium from that position. It really is going to cost him dearly. Häkkinen has not got to come in until a maximum of 3 laps after the notification. The notification is 10 minutes past the hour, so Mika Häkkinen must come in now within the next 3 laps, otherwise he will be black flagged.
Well, you can be sure that what we are then going to see is a scintillating display of recovery driving from Mika Häkkinen, who will be fighting his way up from whatever position he rejoins the race in from the pit lane after his penalty to try to get back into the points. It's looking more and more forlorn, the Constructors' Championship for McLaren, as this race develops. Bad enough because Mika Häkkinen will be right out of the points, although David Coulthard there, you see, is leading the Malaysian Grand Prix on lap 5 out of 56, coming up to 1/11th distance already. He has a 1.8 second lead over Michael Schumacher, who himself is leading Rubens Barrichello by the same amount. There is Häkkinen in 4th place. Wurz is pressing very hard indeed in the Benetton, followed by Villeneuve and still Irvine Frentzen. Zonta in the second BAR is up to 9th place ahead of Johnny Herbert.
And that Ferrari is fat with gas, and Michael Schumacher's no doubt about it at all. How much fuel does Coulthard have on board? What strategy have McLaren played? Because Coulthard pulling away from Michael Schumacher. I believe the Schumacher-Ferrari combination has got a slight advantage performance-wise, but Coulthard, and we also know from earlier races in the season, that Ferrari can go a couple of laps further around here, at least I would have said, with a slightly bigger fuel tank. So Coulthard needs to make hay while the sun shines in the early stages of this Grand Prix.
Into the pits comes Mika Häkkinen for his penalty. Through goes Wurz, Villeneuve. Eddie Irvine goes through. Still Mika Häkkinen is yet to stop. Zonta has gone through. Johnny Herbert and Mika Salo. Now, watch this, because when Mika Häkkinen rejoins, he's going to be virtually last. De La Rosa, he is last in already. Down goes the fuel, and he really smokes out of the pit lane. All 19 competitors are through before Mika Häkkinen joins the Malaysian Grand Prix after his penalty, last of all. 20th and last, with 19th and last, with retirements already from Pedro Diniz in the Sauber. Nick Heidfeld has finished his career with Prost by retiring very early, and Pedro de la Rosa has retired the Arrows also. Now, looking across the grandstand, David Coulthard has put in a series of fastest laps. He's increased the gap over Michael Schumacher to 2.5 seconds. Is he on a lighter fuel load, a 2-stop strategy, in which case he would come in at the earliest, round about lap 19, maybe as late as lap 27, and expect a second stop round about lap 39. If Michael Schumacher is on a 1-stop strategy, as we suspect, he's holding on very well indeed, and he's not going to be coming in for at least 9 laps after David Coulthard. So there's a big tactical battle developing.
Right, well, it takes 28 seconds to stop, so Coulthard has to be that much faster over the Grand Prix distance, approximately then half a second a lap, if indeed he is on a 2-stopper.
Watch Villeneuve. Jacques Villeneuve in 5th position was right up alongside Alexander Wurz when they came out of turn 15. Wurz was in 4th position in the Benetton. It looks as though Villeneuve is challenging to get past the Benetton and improve the BAR's team's chances of getting that 4th place in the Constructors' Championship, which they're looking for so much. David Coulthard, race leader, out of turn 4, up to the long turn 5, left-hander, 4th gear, 135 miles an hour, out of it and up to now turn 9.
Frentzen in the pits. Häkkinen is running 18th because he's had to take that stop-go so early. The whole field have gone past him, so effectively now with Frentzen in the pits, Häkkinen running 18th and last. De La Rosa, Heidfeld and Dinitz out after an accident on the second corner of the first lap.
And the Jordan mechanics trudge back into the garage. It's tough enough for the drivers in this heat and humidity. It's really terrible for mechanics. The humidity's gone down a bit to 54%, but it's still very, very damp indeed if you're wearing outer clothing.
Coulthard looking handy on this lap. He's currently 0.7 of a second up on this lap so far over Michael Schumacher. So look, he's edging out that lead nicely. He's got to be, on average, half a second a lap ahead of him if he is on a two-stopper as opposed to Michael one-stopper. So Coulthard leads by 2.8 seconds from Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello, Wirtz is fourth, Villeneuve fifth, Irvine in the Jaguar, sixth place.
Here's David coming out of turn 3 and up to that kink that he's approaching now. The gap is increasing. Michael Schumacher 3.6 seconds behind the Scotsman now, who of course has won 3 Grand Prix already this year, because David won at Silverstone, he won at Monaco, he won the French Grand Prix, had that terrific battle with Schumacher, if you remember, as a result of which there was a pretty harsh conversation between the two of them afterwards. They're getting well spread out now because Rubens Barrichello is 4 seconds ahead of this battle between Wirtz and Villeneuve, which we really need to be seeing. We're watching the leaders all the time, but we need to know who is in 4th position. Is it Alexander Wirtz? Is it Jacques Villeneuve? Is it the Benetton? Or is it the white BAR? Well, there is Schumacher, there is Barrichello, and it's still, I just caught a flash of the blue Benetton of Alexander Wirtz in 4th position as they come through turn 12. And the Jordans look as though they're continuing to have a bad end of season run of luck, because into the garage is that, I can't see from the back, it looks like Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Frentzen has retired already, so the chances of Jordan scoring points are very low indeed, to put it mildly, because Jarno Trulli is down in 17th position on lap 9 out of 56. And is Wirtz catching Barrichello, or is it my imagination? The gap is 4.7 seconds. Now, the white car is Villeneuve, behind him is Eddie Irvine, and Zonta in the second BAR. These cars are really flying. Lap 9, and you are looking at the blue Benetton of Alexander Wirtz in 4th position, holding a magnificent 4th place. Jacques Villeneuve, who was fighting him, is in the background, you can see. And there's Frentzen out of the race. 1 Jordan retirement already. And if the Prost drivers have had a dreadful season, so has Heinz-Harald Frentzen. This is Grand Prix 17 of 17, and that is the 11th time that Heinz-Harald Frentzen, a 3 times Grand Prix winner, has retired. Villeneuve, now the gap between Villeneuve and Wirtz is just 1.9 seconds. Wirtz is actually increasing it, he's going quicker than the BAR. And Eddie Irvine, the Jaguars are going well. Eddie Irvine holding on to that 6th position, he's in the points. Johnny Herbert is in 8th place, there he is, just coming round the right-hander at turn 14 to go down the Penang Straight, as Villeneuve and Irvine, the Jaguar not looking to be handling as well as the BAR, come down the Kuala Lumpur Straight to turn 1.
Coulthard absolutely flying. It took 1.2 seconds out of Michael Schumacher to extend his lead to 5.3 now, and a very, very good scrap shaping up between Wirtz, Villeneuve, Irvine and Zonta. The 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th as the race unfolds. That's a quick lap from Coulthard. This morning's warm-up, they were in the very low 1:40s as a good time. So as a race pace, that is pretty stunning.
What's your guess, Martin? Coulthard 2 stops, Schumacher 1, or...?
I think you'd have to say that, given that he's 1.2 faster than Michael. But that's more than just the fuel difference. Clearly, Coulthard's car is nicely hooked up at this stage of the race, and he seems able to effortlessly pull away. Remember, I said he's got to have half a second a lap in hand over Michael if he does indeed have to stop. And Coulthard running quite wide through that corner, actually. Lost a little bit of time there. But at the moment, he's able to get that time saving in that he needs. He's 5.3 up after 9 laps. He's got to keep an edge on that. He'll be watching closely if he knows he's got to stop one more time than Michael Schumacher.
I spoke to David just before the driver's parade. I said, how are you feeling? He said, not too bad, but we'll know during the race. Louise Goodman.
I'm down in the Jordan garage, Murray. A lot of long faces down here. As you mentioned earlier, Heinz-Harald Frenzen's come into the garage. He's got a problem with his power steering. Now, the team are working on the car at the moment, trying to fix it, but to be honest, even if he gets out onto the track again, all hope of climbing up, the team climbing up from 6th place in the championship position has now gone. Jarno Trulli has already had to pit. He had to come in on lap 1 to replace his nose after the wing got damaged in an accident on the first lap. So it's been, I think all around, it's been a bad day, a bad end to a bad season for Jordan Grand Prix.
Well, as you watch Villeneuve, Irvine, Zonta and Sarlo, and now Johnny Herbert behind them in 9th position coming through. The chap who's causing the problem in the Constructors' Championship battle between BAR and Benetton is Fisichella. He's down in 12th position. He started well down the field. He's been right off the pace here, and nobody can understand why. The team say it's not the car, that it's Fisichella. But he's been faster than Wurz most of the season, but the Austrian has now been completely liberated. He's had all the worries of leaving the team taken from his shoulders with the news that he's driving for McLaren as test driver next year, and we know how Olivier Panis reacted this year.
Well, truly, in the second and only remaining Jordan then in for yet another stop, his second stop after just 10 laps, so all falling apart, as Louise explained. We saw Coulthard have a scrappy lap. We saw him get out of shape. He lost 4 or 5 tenths to Michael Schumacher last time around. Now he's really trying to make amends. So he's 4.8 seconds up after 10 laps. He needs to keep that gap, half a second plus per lap, and he's fallen behind the schedule. But this is going to be the fastest lap of the race, I believe, so far, as Coulthard heads for the start-finish line to commence his 12th lap.
Lap 12 then, top 10 with comments. David Coulthard, 4.8 seconds ahead of world champion Michael Schumacher. There he is. You can see Rubens Barrichello in 3rd place. You can see Wurz. There is Villeneuve in the white BAR in 5th position. Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar, holding on magnificently and keeping off Ricardo Zonta. If Zonta can get ahead of Irvine, it'll mean that both the BARs are in the top 6. Sarlo is 8th in the sub. Johnny Herbert is 9th. Jenson Button holding that 10th place and actually lapping slower than Mika Sarlo, than Johnny Herbert ahead of him, so he's not gaining ground.
Yeah, miserable day for BMW Williams at the moment. Button down in 10th, and as you say, Murray, 3.5 seconds off the leader's pace at the moment. Ralf Schumacher down in 15th. We didn't talk much about it. I briefly remember him, all 4 wheels on the grass, avoiding that accident in the first lap. So down in 10th and 16th for Williams.
And you may be asking, of course, where is Mika Häkkinen? Well, he came in and had that penalty stop. He's in 16th position, no less than 46 seconds behind his teammate, race leader David Coulthard. He's 2.4 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher, but he's lapping much, much quicker than the Williams, and he will be on its rear wing before very much longer. And James Allen has news.
Yeah, I've been looking at this. It looks like an average of about 7/10 of a second a lap performance difference between Coulthard and Schumacher. That equates to around 20 kilos of fuel. So obviously we've had the safety car at the start, which will extend that first run, but I expect Coulthard probably around lap 25 to make a stop. Schumacher, it's difficult to tell. His pace is a lot faster than it was last year on a one-stopper. He's really flying, so I reckon around about lap 28 to 30, but DC has got to think much more long-term than this. It's not just the first stop, it's the second stop as well, because when he comes in after that, any car within 28 seconds of him will be in front of him when he rejoins. Traffic is a big issue for him.
And we've just seen the McLaren run very wide. There's a massive banner in the grandstand saying, James Allen, pit lane god. That was a masterly analysis, James. We'll keep tabs on it. You're looking at Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello still second and third.
Yes, Coulthard had a bad lap again. He really is pushing it to the limit. I think that confirms, really, he knows he's got to stop one more time than Michael Schumacher, and Coulthard on the ragged edge trying to eke out. He's going to have to drive every lap of this race flat out to beat the Ferrari. Clearly a strategy McLaren must have brought into play to try to get Coulthard off of that second row of the grid, early stages of the race with a lighter car, and it's worked so far. Can he keep the pace up necessary and keep it on the black stuff to make it stick?
Because there are still 13 Constructors' Championship points between Ferrari and McLaren, because David Coulthard is on 10, Schumacher and Barrichello are earning 10 between them, and Ferrari started 13 ahead.
Well, that all went west, didn't it, with Häkkinen's jump start, really. He's still back there, although lapping second fastest, third fastest car on the track after the two leaders. Häkkinen nailed down there in 16th place still, making a small impression on Ralf Schumacher, now up to 15th. So if McLaren needed a 1 and 2 with no Ferraris better than 4th place, that I think is over.
Now Wurz in 4th place is lapping only half a second slower than Mika Häkkinen, so Häkkinen may get past Schumacher, he may get past Genet, Lacey, Fisichella, Button, Verstappen, but then he's going to come up against Johnny Herbert, who is in 9th place, Salo, Zonta, Irvine and Villeneuve, who are running 5th to 9th virtually together, and he's going to have to work very hard indeed to catch, never mind get past them. It's looking more and more difficult for Mika Häkkinen to finish in the points. We're on lap 14 out of 56. None of the top men have yet come in for fuel stops. Mika Häkkinen, of course, has been in for that penalty stop. Trulli has stopped twice, Frentzen has stopped twice. Retirements now, Frentzen, Heidfeld, Diniz and De La Rosa. 17 are still running fast. Trulli is coming in and out of the pits. The last runner, as ever, is Gaston Mazzacane. And you're looking now at Mika Häkkinen closing up on Marc Genet, who is in 14th place. Now you're going to see one of the top drivers of the day approaching and getting past one of the slower drivers of the day, Marc Genet. All Grand Prix drivers are good. Marc Genet is good. He's obviously not as good as the top men, but he's in a very much slower motor car because of the engine disparity. Now you remember that Mazzacane kept Mika Häkkinen behind him for 3 laps at Indianapolis when they were fighting for position, when Mazzacane was actually in 3rd place and Häkkinen was in 4th place, and it looks as though Genet is doing the same thing.
I think Häkkinen will breeze past him. Remember, Mazzacane was on the correct wet tyres at the time and Häkkinen had gone too early, so there was a disparity there why he couldn't pass him in Indianapolis, and if he keeps calm through the last corner, he should have an easy run then to slipstream power. He must have at least 80 horsepower more than the Minardi in front of him. Should be enough. I mean, 80 horsepower will carry a fair-sized saloon car at a good speed, full up with people. But Häkkinen, look, he's still calm. He's not there. Amazing. Häkkinen did not make the impression he should have done,
because Genet has held him back, and you can see that Ralf Schumacher, if anything, in the Williams in 16th position, is closing up on the McLaren and the Minardi ahead of him. Lap 15, David Coulthard. Now Michael Schumacher has got the message. He has just gone fastest of all in the first sector of this three-sector lap. The sector which starts at the start and finish point and goes right the way round just before turn 4 in this 15-corner circuit. And still Mika Häkkinen is locked up behind Marc Genet. He has a look. Mika Häkkinen has just fought his way past Marc Gené's Minardi up into 14th place, having been bottled up behind it for a long time, as he was behind Matsukane in the other Minardi at Indianapolis for all sorts of different reasons. But the fact is that it's lost Häkkinen a lot of time. He's currently 53 seconds in 14th place behind David Coulthard, who leads the race on lap 16 and is responding to Michael Schumacher speeding up.
Yes, Schumacher has, as you say, responded well now. And Coulthard is not on schedule if he's making a two-stopper, which we believe he is. Coulthard is now not on schedule, 5.7 ahead after lap 15, and Michael Schumacher's pumping in the mid-sector where he's been so fast through qualifying. And I think Schumacher has played a very, very patient game in the early part of this race with his high fuel load. And Barrichello hanging on quite gamely, just 4.7 behind Michael Schumacher as well. Coulthard's got it all to do. Häkkinen is out of play, back in 14th after that stop-go penalty for blatantly moving before the lights went out. Now Coulthard has got it all on his shoulders to try to beat these two Ferraris, and he is not yet on schedule.
But he's passed Matsukane in the yellow Minardi to lap him. Now Michael Schumacher in the red Ferrari comes down to turn 1, down the Kuala Lumpur straight to do the same thing. Jarno Trulli ahead, and there is Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard leading on lap 17, the first lap in under 1 minute 40 seconds. And that compares with the lap record last year at 1 minute 40.6 by Frentzen. So Coulthard is now lapping at lap record speed. New lap record to David Coulthard, which has edged him 6 seconds away from Michael Schumacher, as into the pit lane from 8th position comes Mika Salo in the Sauber. That will let Johnny Herbert through. He was only 6 seconds behind the Finn.
Yes, I would have to assume that's an out-of-sync pit stop. Really can't see why he'd be coming in at the end of lap 16, but in he did come. So Salo in then on what looks like a three-stopper. There's a Prost cruising along, flashing his rear light to show that his speed limiter is on, so they can't use that limiter out on the track for some form of traction control, even basic as it might be. And you saw that the Ferrari has cleared the back marker of Trulli before we cut away to this shot of a Lacey leaving his pit stop.
As you look at Michael Schumacher, who has now got past Jarno Trulli to lap the disconsolate Italian in the Jordan, who was looking forward so much to an excellent season this year. And in fact, it's been anything but for Trulli, because whilst Heinz-Harald Frentzen has retired his other car, the other Jordan, 11 times, Trulli's been out 7.
Coulthard in the pits very, very early on. I wonder if this is a strategy change then for McLaren. That is extremely early. James?
Yeah, it's a bit early for a strategy change. Funny enough, I was just working on this, thinking that if you put about 90 kilos of fuel in, no, it's not. It's a very short fuel. I'm going to work on this, try and figure out what they're doing, but very, very odd.
Well, meantime, Michael Schumacher has gone into the lead. I wasn't able to spot where Rubens Barrichello is, but he will certainly have got through as David Coulthard crosses the white line, releases the speed limiter and goes for it.
Yes.
And coming up behind him is Jacques Villeneuve.
It's Zonta behind him, so at that point then, Coulthard comes out in 7th place on the track after his first stop, so we now know with just a 7-second stop he will have to come in again. So very strange there. I wonder why McLaren have done that. Maybe they saw a window to make that stop, get Coulthard back out on the racetrack and away from any impending traffic. So a very early stop then for David Coulthard.
Lap 18, James Allen.
Yeah, I believe the reason for that was he picked up some debris, Murray, and you could see the mechanics very clearly pulling stuff out of the side pods. I believe the car was overheating. They needed to bring it in to get the temperatures down. Obviously, the debris was blocking the radiators. They took the opportunity to put some fuel in. I'm trying to work out what it's going to do for them, but I can't see it's going to do anything for them that's going to get Coulthard in front of either of the two Ferraris this afternoon.
Well, we saw him take a long run down the edge of the racetrack earlier on in the race when he lost just 4 or 5 tenths of a second one lap when Michael Schumacher very first started coming back at him. Maybe he collected some stones and some grass in there and blocked the radiator or something if indeed his car is overheating. And Michael Schumacher now has responded straight with a 1:39.6 0.5. He's got plenty of speed in that car.
Another masterly thinking race by Michael Schumacher and Ferrari. He leads Rubens Barrichello by 6 seconds with a new fastest and record lap. Wurz goes up to 3rd position, 14 seconds behind Schumacher. Villeneuve is 4th. Eddie Irvine in the point still in the Jaguar, 5th position. David Coulthard, 6th place. Ricardo Zonta in the 2nd BAR, still in 7th place. And Johnny Herbert in the other Jaguar in his last race in Formula 1 is in 8th position. 9th and 10th, Jos Verstappen, Jenson Button. And Button is not making any progress at all. Verstappen is just over a second ahead of him. Now this is the approach to turn 9, the left-hander, and you look at the Ferrari garage now. They'll be ready to leap into action. Now, if Michael Schumacher is on a one-stop strategy, it's going to be another 10 laps or so, I think, before he comes in.
So Coulthard then with that very early stop, no doubt about it, that must have been out of sequence. I think that's blown his chance of winning this race. Can he now get between these two Ferraris? But there's not much between them. Barrichello hanging on very, very gamely to Michael Schumacher, and I think that this really has just pegged that McLaren back into 3rd place unless these two cars have a problem, because I don't think Coulthard's going to be able to maximise his strategy with a stop at the end of the 17th lap as Michael Schumacher pours in another 1:39.369, a new lap record. That is sensational pace. Strange, he had clear air in front of him, but Coulthard going in the pits has triggered Michael Schumacher into really stepping on the gas.
And Alexander Wurz, 3rd in the Benetton, is saving the day for his team at the present moment in the Constructors' Championship battle between them and BAR, because he's 1 place ahead of Jacques Villeneuve.
Irvine in the pits there, and that'll please Coulthard because he was homing in on the Jaguar. Coulthard up to 5th, Irvine having a very, very strong race. Pitting from P5, good run for Eddie again.
Only one Jaguar has scored World Championship points this year, Eddie Irvine at the wheel at Monaco, 4 World Championship points. And he's back in the race, as coming up behind him you can see the Benetton, and we're on lap 20.
Jenson Button's gone missing somewhere, and he's outside our window in a cloud of smoke. Jenson Button out of the car, out of the race.
Out of the Williams team. There he is. That was his last drive for Williams. And Juan Pablo Montoya will be joining the team next year in Jenson's place. And I can remember no Grand Prix driver who's made a greater impression on me in his first season of Grand Prix racing than Jenson Button. Next year he goes to Benetton, a young man with a great Grand Prix future in front of him. And there's a man with a great Grand Prix future behind him and in front of him. Michael Schumacher comes through to complete his 20th lap. Ferrari running 1st and 2nd again, as they did in America, and they've done it many times before. Michael Schumacher is a man with no real interest in the history of Grand Prix racing, and I was absolutely astounded when the Ferraris finished 1st and 2nd when he said, "This is the first time we've done it, I think."
Wurz in then from, says 4th there, but he was actually running 3rd. He was 4th as he went over the line because Villeneuve stayed out on the racetrack and passed him just before as he was going down the pit lane on the speed limiter. So Villeneuve pits from a strong 3rd place, and again they're all coming in earlier than expected.
Fairly short stop that, so not all that much, about 75 litres of fuel will have gone in, and the Arrows just nips through in front of Alexander Wurz, and James Allen has got more news.
Funnily enough, this is actually quite good news for David Coulthard. I bet he didn't really expect this. I think the tyre wear is greater than expected for these guys like Villeneuve and Wurz. We certainly thought they were going to run longer than this, and it's all playing into Coulthard's hands. He's got a very light fuel load. He's really on the case. He can close up now to the back of the 2 Ferraris before they make their stop. He won't get close enough, obviously, to take the lead, but it is playing into Coulthard's hands. He has strengthened here.
Yes, playing into his hands for a 3rd, but I think 1st and 2nd now, Ferrari have seized that. Michael Schumacher having a bit of a grin, really, putting a few manners on Rubens and just pumping in the low 1:39. But maybe that is the answer to your point, James, about tyre wear being greater than expected. The pace is just incredible.
And you're looking at Mika Häkkinen now. He's coming up behind Fisichella in the Benetton, Hakkinen has worked his way past Genet and Mika Salo up into 11th position. Now he runs through the cement over the oil from the touring car race, with Fisichella staving him off, and it's not going to happen for very much longer, because Mika Hakkinen is lapping about 0.6 of a second faster than the Italian, who has been so off the pace here in Malaysia. Mika Hakkinen running wide, having a look at the Benetton as they come down the Penang Straight. Now this is where the superior power of the Mercedes-Benz engine will pay off, and has paid off, and Hakkinen surges through. He's now in the top 10. The next target is Eddie Irvine, and he's about 8 seconds down the road.
Well, that's amazing, isn't it? Hakkinen breezed past that Benetton, as you might have expected, and took 3 or 4 stabs on a straight like that to get past a Minardi, which must have amazing straight line speed, considering it must be at least 80 horsepower down the Minardi. But Hakkinen having no trouble whatsoever passing the Benetton Supertech.
Well, young Gustav Brunner, the Austrian, who's been actually in Formula One with many teams, designs a very tidy motor car. He's certainly done it for Minardi. Everybody hopes they're going to have more power. They're still finalising their engine supply for next year. All sorts of rumours. The general belief is that they'll have a Supertech engine, but it remains to be confirmed. And the Mugen concern have issued a rather weird press release here in Malaysia, the gist of which is we're expecting to continue in Formula One, but we don't know with whom.
Well, there's only 11 teams, and most of those are owned by manufacturers, so it shortens the odds up a little bit, doesn't it?
Yep, lap 23, Schumacher leads, Barrichello second, Villeneuve still in third position, 20 seconds behind the leader, just coming into the pits as I talk to you, which will let David Coulthard know. I don't think it will. It's going to be very close between Villeneuve and Coulthard. Louise Goodman.
I'm standing here with Murray Walker. I'm standing here with Jenson Button Murray. Jenson, not really the way that you wanted to end your stint with Williams. It's actually not been a good weekend for you, this, has it?
Hasn't been great, no. But I mean, the start was good. I was up to a 10th or 9th, I think. So it wasn't looking too bad. And with our strategy, I think it could have worked very well. But there you go. It's an abrupt end to a good year. And hopefully we can come back fighting strong next year.
I was going to say to you, you must be very, very pleased with the way your first season has gone.
Yeah, definitely. It's had its ups and downs, I've always said. But it's my first year in Formula One, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's probably been the best year of my life so far. So it's been pretty spectacular.
Are you looking forward to joining Benetton, or are you going to miss the Williams guys?
A bit of both, really. I think I'm going to miss the Williams guys quite a lot. We had a good relationship with pretty much everyone on the team. But then again, I'll be back there in 2 years. Really, I've got to concentrate on next year now and getting the best out of the car and the engine. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Jenson.
All Jenson Button's mechanics were wearing his T-shirt on the grid as a sign of respect and farewell to him. And certainly he's impressed his own team, which is often the hardest thing to do in Grand Prix racing. His mechanics very much behind him. So Button then out of the race, but Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello up at the front end, really just piling on the pace. Incredible now, and I think they've really knocked Coulthard off of schedule completely.
Well, now only 2 of the top 6 have made stops, and they are Jacques Villeneuve and David Coulthard, who were respectively 3rd and 4th at the time. You're looking at Rubens Barrichello, who's 9 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, who's on his 24th lap. Now we're riding with Rubens out of turn 1 into the long sweeping turn 3, and in 4th position is Villeneuve as a result of his stop. Ricardo Zonta is moving up well as well, but I'm going to wait for things to settle down a little after these pit stops, and in comes Ricardo Zonta for his first pit stop.
We'll make the stop.
Johnny Herbert then up into 5th place, so Herbert yet to stop this afternoon as Zonta makes that run with BAR. He's having a good afternoon. Villeneuve and Zonta having a very good end to the season, you have to say, and that elevates Coulthard completely up into 3rd place now, 21 seconds behind Barrichello. If Coulthard has a brilliant run to the end of this race, he does still have a chance of worrying those Ferraris. They've got to come in. They've got less fuel than him at the moment. We'll have to keep an eye on those lap times in about 10 laps time.
And as you look at the Ferrari mechanics out in the pit lane, the constructors' battle between BAR and Benetton is looking very interesting indeed. But meantime, in comes Michael Schumacher, hits the pit lane speed limiter. His Ferrari mechanics are ready for him. Now Rubens Barrichello goes through into the lead.
and looks a straightforward enough stop there for Michael Schumacher. Let's count the seconds. Look, not that much fuel, James. I'm sure James will be furiously calculating that down there. It seems to me like they may have brought Schumacher onto a two-stopper. James.
Yeah, a bit of a switch, I think, from Ross Brawn. They've put Michael onto a two-stopper. The danger was Coulthard. He was about 30 seconds behind Schumacher just before he made that stop. But you can see as he rejoins, Michael's only just in front of him. If they'd taken more fuel on, like a one-stop fuel load, it would have put Michael behind. It would have been messy for the Ferrari team. It seems slightly unusual. It has to do with tyre wear, I'm sure. I'm sure Michael was trying to do a one-stopper and he found these tyres are just wearing down. Interestingly, they put some scrub tyres onto Michael's car when he went out, so that's obviously working best.
Yeah, it's probably the heat. Bridgestone have got an entirely new tyre here, replacing their previous soft one. They say it gives better performance, but this heat is undoubtedly affecting things. It's 35 degrees track temperature now. The humidity continues high, 52.
I can see the Ferrari mechanics, a reflection in the glass building above. They're ready. What must be for Rubens Barrichello, of course. Michael Schumacher has already stopped. But what I do know is that Michael has 3 new sets of rears available for this afternoon, and I believe the McLaren boys only have 1 or 2. I'm not sure exactly how many. I know they have less new rear tyres than Michael. He used less in qualifying, and I think that will give him a pace advantage in the second half of this race. Barrichello, I think, will slot down the pit lane. Yes, he does. He's in for his first scheduled stop of the afternoon.
Yes, Michael Schumacher only did 8 laps of the 12 that he was entitled to in qualifying, as Rubens Barrichello still fighting the effects of that flu bug that he's had, although I expect the adrenaline will be staving off most of the results of it. He'll certainly be sweating in that cockpit. Accelerates away 7 seconds, so that's about 84, 85 litres of fuel. There goes his team leader, and David Coulthard coming through. So David Coulthard gets out before Barrichello joins the track. David Coulthard goes through, and it looked to me as though the Jordan got ahead of Barrichello as well.
Yes, Truly did, but he's running 17th and lapped after his earlier trouble, so Truly will have to get out of the way. He's already had a lot of blue flags waved at him this afternoon and get out clear. He'll clear Barrichello's path immediately, I'd imagine, as they head up to turn 4, and indeed he does. So it's a straightforward 1, 2, 3 then. Michael Schumacher 4.2 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, and Barrichello a little way down the road.
And we are now on lap 26, getting up towards half distance. Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Barrichello, Johnny Herbert, a magnificent 4th position. So whatever happens now, he can say that he's been well in the points in his last race in Formula One.
Just flicking down the gears, then down to just 2nd gear, coasting into turn 2, a frustrating corner for the drivers. Michael Schumacher was insisting they left the pylon on the inside of that corner. That's where David Coulthard overtook him last year. Can Coulthard perform such a trick this time around? Well, interestingly, after Schumacher's stop, he still was faster than Coulthard's McLaren. So Coulthard then really got a job on his hands if he's going to pull that deficit back to Michael Schumacher of 4.9 seconds.
Yes, indeed. Michael Schumacher continuing to lap at under 1 minute and 40 seconds, and very close to his own pole position time, 1 minute 39.6 last year. And there is David Coulthard. You can see the gap.
That's Hakkinen in a scrap now, having moved up to 7th place. He's just a few tenths of a second behind Villeneuve. Wirtz and Villeneuve have stopped. Hakkinen made that one pit stop, and off the road goes Hakkinen again this afternoon. So Hakkinen, the one stop he has made was for a penalty, not for fuel, and he's struggling with the car. Villeneuve running well.
Lap 28 out of 56, and Mika Hakkinen has fought his way up to Jacques Villeneuve, who is 6th in this race. And remember, Mika Hakkinen was way down in 14th position. He stopped once, but that was a penalty stop. He's still got to come in for his first fuel and tyre stop, but he's almost back in the points, lapping almost exactly to 1/10 of a second at the same time as the BAR in front of him. In the race order on lap 28, as you watch Hakkinen and Villeneuve, is Schumacher leading Coulthard by just over 5 seconds. Barrichello is third, 9 seconds behind Schumacher. Johnny Herbert in the Jaguar, magnificent 4th position, but yet to stop. Jos Verstappen in the Arrows is now up into 5th place, and you're looking at this battle between Hakkinen there in 7th place, Villeneuve in 6th position ahead of him. You've just seen the gap on the caption, and to complete the top 10, it's Wurtz 8th, Irvine 9th in the second Jaguar, and Fisichella up to 10th.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert, I think, using the same strategy he had last year, fill it up with gas and go as long as you can. He's now got down into the 1:40s, just a few tenths of a second off the leaders, and a solid 4th place there for Johnny Herbert. Verstappen also on a one-stopper in 5th place, just 2.1 seconds behind him. And once again, that long-legged first stint working well for Herbert, and this time Verstappen. I think Coulthard having to pit early and Hakkinen with his stop-go penalty allowed Ferrari the comfort of changing their tactics back on to a 2-stopper.
Well, what a wonderful thing. It's early days yet, but what a wonderful thing it would be for Johnny Herbert and for Jaguar if he could finish in the points. But as Martin has so rightly pointed out, it's into the pits. As I say, it comes Johnny Herbert from 4th position, just 2 seconds ahead of Jos Verstappen. Now, there is the Arrows. Behind Jos Verstappen, you can see Jacques Villeneuve with Mika Hakkinen 6th, 7th tucked up behind Villeneuve.
The downside of a one-stopper like Johnny is on is a very long stop, 10, 11 seconds while they get all that fuel on board. We're not able to see Johnny's pit stop at the moment, but for sure he'll be stationary a long time while they get that gas in. And Johnny Herbert then making the one-stopper work well. Look, here he is now. Look, that seemed a very slow stop. A long time getting away there for Johnny Herbert. Don't know what the problem was. 19.7 seconds. That has cost him dearly and wasted at least half of the advantage he had. Louise.
Yeah, I can tell you what the problem was there, Martin. Johnny seemed to come quite slowly into the pits, actually. Tyres, obviously, old tyres came off, new went on quite quickly. The fuel, took a long time to go in, but then the mechanics had a bit of a problem getting the fuel rig off the car, so that's what cost Johnny the extra time.
Thanks, Louise. Now 16 drivers effectively in the race, the last of which is Gaston Mazzacane, and the others are Michael Schumacher, lap 29, still 5 seconds plus ahead of David Coulthard, who is 3.5 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello. They're lapping in almost exactly the same time. There is Coulthard, behind him Barrichello, behind Barrichello a long way back Jos Verstappen, some 20 seconds down the road, followed by Johnny Herbert, who's very close and getting closer, but before his pit stop that was, to Jos Verstappen. Jacques Villeneuve in 6th position, and Verstappen comes into the pits as I talk to you. Now coming down towards us, you can see the BAR and Mika Hakkinen. That is Villeneuve in the BAR, Hakkinen in the McLaren. And while Mika Hakkinen was scything his way through the field earlier on, thanks to superior horsepower, he's not finding it so easy with the toughest man in Grand Prix racing, Jacques Villeneuve, ahead of him.
Yes, the Arrows pit stop then, the first and only one of the afternoon, hopefully, for Jos Verstappen from 4th place, and that's about right, 10 and a bit seconds. Good stop there from the Orange Arrows team, and Verstappen, be interesting to see where he pops out in the field. Certainly got a nice clear track ahead of him. Hakkinen then is going to go the furthest of just about everybody. Fisichella still hasn't come in the pits. Hakkinen, he would have been in good shape, Murray, had he not have had that jump start penalty.
Yeah,
look,
but
the car was absolutely full of fuel.
Yes, look at this though. The world champion of 1997 for Williams, Canada's Jacques Villeneuve, battling the world champion of 1998 and 99, Mika Hakkinen from Finland in the McLaren. And they're certainly making a go of it. And Mika Hakkinen is going to have to work very, very hard, either to get past Jacques Villeneuve or to harry the man enough to make a mistake. I can't see Jacques Villeneuve doing that. He's through goes, or does he? They're absolutely side by side. Mika Hakkinen makes a tremendous attack. Jacques Villeneuve moves across on him, and it's coming down to the very, very slow left-hander at the end of the lap. Second gear, 65 miles an hour. Villeneuve should do it. He's got the inside line. He's holding it.
But he's gone wide. He locked his inside left, and Villeneuve outbraked himself. Busy watching Hakkinen, and really, Hakkinen frightened his way past Villeneuve, and you don't do that too easily to Jacques Villeneuve. Forced him offline and forced him into a mistake, and a great move there for Hakkinen that could well see him up to 4th place in this race.
Yeah, wake up on the left there. This is a terrific race going on, because Alexander Wurz is now closing on Jacques Villeneuve as a result of the Canadian running wide. Wurz in 6th position. This is a replay of the battle between Hakkinen and Villeneuve, where you see Mika Hakkinen retake that position as Jacques Villeneuve runs wide. No, you don't, because there is Hakkinen. He's now stretching the lead. He's got a clear track in front of him. Villeneuve struggling to hold up, and Wurz is closing in 6th position. Eddie Irvine is still 7th, and the second Benetton of Fisichella is now up into 8th place. Looking very interesting between BAR and Benetton, because Villeneuve is in 5th position, Wurz in the Benetton is 6th, Fisichella is in 8th position.
Hakkinen, of course, must have to stop quite soon. We haven't seen any mechanics out yet. He's showing one pit stop, but to remind you, that was for a stop-and-go penalty earlier on. He's 25 seconds behind 3rd place man Barrichello. His stop, they both got one more stop to do. His stop will be about 4 seconds longer than Barrichello's. He's got to take on board more fuel. Therefore, he's got a half a minute to make up in the last 25 laps.
As Schumacher comes up to Marc Genet in the yellow Minardi, who's having his own private battle in 15th place with Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW. There is Schumacher, and Michael Schumacher goes past the Minardi, has lapped it, and is now setting about catching his brother Michael, who is some 13 places behind him on the track and about to be lapped. Ralf Schumacher lapping about 1 minute 43.0, and Michael Schumacher lapping 1 minute 41.0, 2 seconds faster.
Yes, and Coulthard really faster at this stage than both Ferraris. He's now on a lower fuel load. Remember, they're slightly out of sync on their pit stops, but nonetheless, Coulthard showing the kind of pace he did earlier on in the early laps of this Grand Prix. The gap down to just 3.4 seconds and 2 back markers.
And you're looking at it now. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams and Genet in the Minardi. There is David Coulthard, second in the race, going through on the inside. Genet moves through and lets him past. The gap on the previous lap, lap 31, between Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard was 3.4 seconds.
Yeah, inspired drive there from Coulthard. Genet didn't have much chance. Coulthard taking no prisoners today, as he can see the lead of this Grand Prix just down the road in the hands of world champion Michael Schumacher. Between them, of course, is Ralf, but I don't see Ralf coming into play here. He's a lap down. He will move out of the way. I do not see Ralf spoiling it for David, even to help his brother.
Puff of smoke there, tyre smoke, I think it was, from Ralf Schumacher's Williams BMW. Ferrari, of course, have the objective in this race, the Malaysian Grand Prix, the last of the year, of doing the double. Not only having Michael Schumacher win the Drivers' Championship for the first time for 21 years for the Italian team, but also for the second year in succession winning the Constructors' Championship. And they're certainly on target to do that.
Grab a load of this. Hakkinen, 1:38.5 for his quickest lap now. Incredible. That's some 1.5 seconds faster than anybody else, a second faster than the previous record Michael Schumacher set earlier in this race. Hakkinen having a massive attack now to catch up with that leading trio.
And he's now some 22 seconds behind Barrichello. Schumacher leads, David Coulthard second, Barrichello third. 8 seconds covers the 3 of them. Mika Häkkinen is 30 seconds behind Schumacher, but is he flying as out goes Fisichella from 8th position. Now everybody in the race has made at least 1 pit stop. Jarno Trulli, of course, has been in twice, and Mika Häkkinen has had that penalty stop, I remind you.
Well, despite passing a car on the previous lap, David still took a further half-second out of Michael. On this lap, he's had to clear Schumacher, Ralph's, Williams. He's about 3... No, they're about level on this lap. How's the gap now? It was 2.8, now down to 2.4. Coulthard on a roll.
Indeed. So there is Ralph Schumacher. Here is Barrichello, who has got past the Minardi. Now, it must be about this stage of the race that if you've got the flu bug, the way Barrichello has, you're starting to flag a bit. He's lapping in about 1 minute 40.6, which is only 0.4 of a second slower than the team leader, Michael Schumacher, but it is some 1 second a lap slower than David Coulthard, who's pulling away.
So Jenson Button then out of this race, as is Frentzen in the Jordan, Heidfeld, Dinitz and De La Rosa. 5 retirements then so far, and 17 runners, of course.
As you look at the fastest man on the track, double world champion Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren Mercedes. He's got the gap down to Rubens Barrichello to 21.3 seconds, lapping exactly a second a lap faster than the Brazilian, but there are, just trying to work it out, 23 laps left.
Well, that Mika's 29 seconds behind. That's just about what the stop and go cost him. So Häkkinen really has been the fastest man. He had a good strategy, good car, some kind of attacking drive. Of course, the Ferraris, I don't think, realised they would be under pressure from this man once he disappeared in for that stop and go. But they're going to have to keep an eye on him, and Coulthard there, who's still able to at least match and occasionally close down. Yes, down to 2.3 seconds again now then. The gap, as you're watching Häkkinen, the gap from Coulthard to Schumacher, second to first, 2.3.
Mika Häkkinen is accused of being uncommunicative in post-race interviews, and he's not always the most loquacious of men. But we had a wonderful party here at Sepang, a farewell party thrown by Jaguar for Johnny Herbert. And Mika Häkkinen came up on stage, and he had the audience absolutely enthralled and doubled up with laughter about his experiences with Johnny Herbert together in the Lotus team in the early 90s. He's lost none of his skill, of course. He's got a lot more thanks to experience, and look at the way he is going.
Yes, Häkkinen, another new fastest lap of a 1:38.5 flashing up on your screen then. So Häkkinen a full 1.1 seconds faster than anybody else on the racetrack at this time. Remember, he is low on fuel though. He has not yet stopped, so he must be imminent for a fuel stop anytime soon. He's running more fuel than the others, nonetheless, stunning race speed.
Yeah, I think he would probably rejoin in 8th or 9th position at the present if things continue the way they are at the moment, as the race leader Michael Schumacher comes down the reverse straight, the Penang straight, down to turn 15 at 65 mile an hour, second gear, left-hander. David Coulthard, the gap was down to 2.3 seconds on the previous lap, because Schumacher, the race leader, is just coming through to complete his 35th lap out of 56, looking for yet another victory, which would be his 9th of the year. And I think the previous highest was Nigel Mansell in 1992, when he was world champion for Williams, who then had the Renault engine. And Schumacher is on his 36th lap now. The gap between himself and Coulthard, 2.3 seconds, and Mika Häkkinen is in the pit lane. He's just touring past me as I talk to you. There are the mechanics all ready to go, and Häkkinen stops now. What about Barrichello is through, of course. Villeneuve has gone through. Wurz will be the next one, and Alexander Wurz goes through. Neddy Irvine will be the next one. So, sure enough, Mika Häkkinen is going to rejoin in 8th or 9th place. There is Irvine going through in the Jaguar. Behind him will be Ricardo Zonta. There is the white BAR, which was in 8th position, but Häkkinen gets through onto the track in front of Zonta, and I think is in 8th position, subject to confirmation. Lap 36.
But Häkkinen doesn't have to stop again now. The others will have to stop one more time who are in front of him.
Well, quite embarrassedly, I have to tell you that we are in an air-conditioned commentary box. The track temperature, though, out there is 38 degrees. The air temperature has gone up to 34 degrees. The humidity has gone down a bit, but it's mighty, mighty hot. Now, imagine yourself in those mechanics' overalls there, the fireproof overalls. They've had them on for about half an hour before the race began, and they just had to stand there sweating while the drivers were battling their way round the circuit to come in. And you're looking now at this developing battle. Michael Schumacher leads, David Coulthard second. They've both stopped once, of course. And Schumacher is now just under 1.9 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, who continues to close up on the McLaren. The previous lap by just 0.4 of a second. The gap now just under 2 seconds. Rubens Barrichello is still third, so Ferrari are on 14 World Championship points at the present moment. They only need 3 World Championship points to get their second successive Constructors' World Championship to add to Michael Schumacher's third Drivers' Championship win, his first for the Ferrari team. Salo comes in the Sauber. This is his last drive for the Swiss team before he joins Toyota. He's in 8th position. Well, he's not anymore because Alexander Wurz has gone through, Jos Verstappen has gone through, and I think Fisichella goes through. So Salo is going to rejoin in, I think, 11th position. Johnny Herbert is still running in the Jaguar. He is in 12th place, but his teammate Eddie Irvine is still 5th. It's looking, fingers crossed for Jaguar, as though they're going to get 2 World Championship points. Lap 38 out of 56, and almost in the same shot, Michael Schumacher. Yes, they are in the same shot. Michael Schumacher leading the race for Ferrari. David Coulthard second, and that is Marc Genet up alongside the pit wall in the second Minardi, retiring. And what's the problem? Look, well, whatever.
Possibly a left rear puncture there. James, what can you tell us?
Well, I think Coulthard's going to make a stop fairly imminently, but Martin, I saw something a moment ago in Häkkinen stop that I've never seen before. It must be so hot out there. As he came down the pit lane, he lifted his visor so that the fresh air could blow into his eyes. He's obviously been working incredibly hard in that McLaren. I also noticed they swept away a lot of debris after his stop, so he'd obviously picked stuff up as he was out on the track.
Yeah, he's put a couple of wheels on the grass 2 times there, James, and I think I can see also the McLaren mechanics then out in the pit lane.
Yeah.
Must be for David Coulthard. You're watching Zonta's second stop. He's pitted from 7th place. So McLaren getting ready to bring Coulthard in. These last pit stops should take them about 6 to 7 seconds, really. A crucial one. Coulthard having got the gap, and Coulthard is in the pit lane. Yes, he is. You can see him now, and the gap was down to 1.9 seconds on the previous lap, and McLaren really need to turn that car around.
And while you're watching this pit stop, I'll tell you that there is no Benetton in the top 6. Villeneuve is 4th. So he's on 3 World Championship points. If he can stay there and Benetton do not get a car in the top 6, BAR will move up to 4th position in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, Villeneuve's got to stop again. Yeah, Mary, I don't think he's got a prayer of 4th place today. If both McLarens and both Ferraris keep running, they're all squabbling for 5th and 6th places, the rest of them, because Häkkinen's stunning speed in the middle part of this race has enabled him to bring himself up into contention, and he's got a look at the back of Barrichello, I would say, for that final podium position, and Villeneuve pits straight away.
With Eddie Irvine presumably still to come in for a second stop, moving up into 4th position. as the French-Canadian stops the BAR Honda. The mechanics reach into the side pods to remove debris. Out he goes, 7 seconds. And Villeneuve will rejoin, I think, in 7th or 8th position. He's back on the track into the slow turn 1. Lap 39, Schumacher leading. Coulthard's been in and out.
And this then is Michael Schumacher lapping, I believe, Johnny Herbert. So Herbert then, and he goes straight in the pit lane. So Schumacher pitting straight away after Coulthard's stop. James, are you there?
Yeah, once again, a tiny bit earlier than we expected, and it's in reaction to an extremely good pit stop by the McLaren team. Michael Schumacher comes in. Now, Coulthard is still a danger to Schumacher in this race. They need to turn this car around very quickly. It's a beautiful stop by the Ferrari team. Schumacher now chasing his 9th victory of the year. The only time he's ever done that was back in '95, of course.
So 7/10 of a second faster then than David Coulthard's stop, and I believe that will give Michael Schumacher the lead. Coulthard passes our commentary box. He will not be ahead of Michael Schumacher. If he wants to win this race, been a great drive from Coulthard. He's kept Schumacher more than honest, but now he's going to have to pass him to win the Grand Prix. He did manage to pass him here last year in that famous turn 2 clash, but that was a big risk. And Michael Schumacher now appearing to be well in control of this Grand Prix.
With Rubens Barrichello temporarily, and you're looking at him leading the race, the man who so brilliantly won the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim from 18th on the grid with an absolutely scintillating drive. In spite of this flu problem of his, he's leading the race, but he will have to come in another time, and that will drop him about 20 seconds or so, and he will undoubtedly be rejoining where he was before in 3rd position. But it's looking extremely good for Ferrari. We're on lap 40, and the Maranello concern has certainly this year got on top of McLaren. They won the Constructors' Championship last year, and if Schumacher comes through, it will be to win his 9th race this year. 1 for Barrichello in Germany. That makes 10 out of 17 races victories for Ferrari. Ride with Barrichello.
On the anchors, about 4G deceleration, come down 5 gears and make sure you hook up to the white line on the apex as you pop over the crest. They have a huge understeer through there. They just give it all the lock they can, and then the circuit opens up and take the line and reduce the load, the torque coming through the steering wheel, and let the car go and accelerate forwards. It's a feeling you get through your hands, through your backside, through your feet as the car. These cars are so pure, they give you so much information, and you just get a feeling of what you have to do next. And in the pits comes truly from a truly awful day of 15th position then for his 3rd pit stop of the afternoon. The first one was for a nose, having tripped over somebody on the first lap. All
gloom in the Jordan pit, I'm sure, for the last Grand Prix of the year, with Heinz-Harald Frentzen having long ago retired. Jarno Trulli clearly not going to get any World Championship points, and their rivals BAR, who are already ahead of them in the Constructors' Championship, stretching their lead and bidding fair to get ahead of Benetton too. As you watch Rubens Barrichello, and Ferrari getting ready for another stop. Now here is Johnny Herbert, 11th place, followed by Fisichella. And Barrichello.
Barrichello in the pit lane then. He'll be looking for the line down to 80 kilometers per hour. And even that, I've stood in front of these people while they're doing practice stops in the warm-up, and it still looks terrifying standing just in front of a Formula 1 car coming towards you at 50 miles an hour. And they have to stop on the marks, and it's another low. No, there's a problem there for Barrichello. That's a slow stop, did not get it into first gear, had no confidence to get away, and that gives Häkkinen an even better chance to have a run at Barrichello. James.
Well, it didn't get it into gear, simple as that. The car was sitting there. I think Rubens was caught by surprise. Couldn't quite see where the lollipop man, who normally is supposed to instruct him when to put the first gear in, whether he did that job or not, but Rubens, I think, was just half asleep. It must be really, really hot out there, guys.
And here is the battle now. Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard, they have both stopped twice. Rubens Barrichello has rejoined, of course, and we're on lap 42 then. 14 laps at the end of this one to go, each of them 3.4 miles long. And there is Rubens Barrichello. So he is in third position, and we're riding with him now. Now look at the line, look at the speed, listen to that V10.
And the big story now then is 2 McLarens chasing 2 Ferraris. Can Hakkinen pull back that gap until Barrichello gets round to the start-finish line? We can't tell you exactly what the gap is back to Mika Hakkinen in 4th place, but we do know that Coulthard was just 1.7 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Up there between 1st and 2nd, Barrichello will be running 3rd, and Hakkinen has a chance to home in on him and take that final podium position. And I think Villeneuve's looking the best bet for best of the rest.
And listen to how close their times are. Michael Schumacher, last lap, 1 minute 40.5. David Coulthard, 1 minute 40.53. Well, they're within 5,000ths of a second of each other. And now Michael Schumacher has gone marginally quicker to increase his lead by 0.2 of a second as he goes into the 43rd lap, with Schumacher pushing. Rubens Barrichello some 10 seconds behind David Coulthard. Mika Hakkinen, the fastest, no, not quite the fastest, by 1/10 of a second in 4th position. Jacques Villeneuve 5th. Eddie Irvine still in the points for Jaguar in 6th position. Johnny Herbert still running in 11th place.
So there's the gap there, 19.7 seconds is Hakkinen behind Barrichello. I don't think he's got enough laps left, Murray, but he can have a good go if he can pull out the kind of speed he was mid-race. But of course then he was lighter on fuel than his 3 rivals ahead of him. But Hakkinen really is going to have to pull something pretty spectacular out of the bag to get on the final podium step. Barrichello, I don't think, has a prayer of a run at Coulthard. Can Coulthard close down Schumacher? The first 2 or 3 laps of this stint, Schumi has had about 1/10 of a second advantage.
Well, Schumacher intimated before the race began that he would let Barrichello through to win the race if David Coulthard was not in the top 6 and McLaren were not in the top 6, because that would be a victory for Barrichello, which he was prepared to cede to him. Needless to say, that is not going to happen now. With Schumacher leading, McLaren 2nd, Coulthard, Ferrari 3rd, Barrichello, McLaren 4th, Hakkinen. Yet again, we're seeing these 2 dominant constructors right up at the front of everything. The battle to win in this race, then, if you're not in a McLaren or a Ferrari, is for 5th position, which Jacques Villeneuve has got. 2 World Championships in the bag, and he's already got 6 World Championship finishes in the points this year, compared with none last year, BAR's first year of racing.
So down to 1.6 seconds, 13 laps remaining, and we've got this situation. Coulthard is 0.3 faster in section 1. Schumacher 0.3 faster in section 2, and then Coulthard again 0.3 faster in section 3. If he can keep that up, he's going to be looking very closely at the gearbox of the Scarlet Ferrari.
Yes, which again prompts me to say that catching is one thing, getting past is another. I'm sure Michael Schumacher will know exactly what the situation is, and if David Coulthard gets on his gearbox, although he's demonstrated in the past that he's more than capable of fighting his way past the German, it's going to be mighty hard to do in this race, with Schumacher looking for his 9th World Championship victory in this season. And we're on the 44th lap now, 12 of them to go in what has been a really interesting race. The temperatures remaining about the same. And you see the Minardi parked on the left of the pit wall as Salo comes towards us in 10th position. There is Johnny Herbert, 11th place, pursued by Giancarlo Fisichella. A miserable race for the Italian, who it seems hard to realise now was in the recent past being tipped as a potential world champion. Sadly, he hasn't looked very much like one this season. So we're on the 45th lap now, and here is the order. Michael Schumacher is 1 second now ahead of David Coulthard, who is continuing to inch up on the gearbox of the Ferrari ahead of him. Rubens Barrichello is 12 seconds behind the race leader. Mika Häkkinen is continuing to close on Barrichello, but not very quickly. He's 20 seconds behind him now. Villeneuve in the BAR is still in 5th position, and Eddie Irvine is still in 6th place. And look at David Coulthard now, and 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, Wurz, Verstappen, Zonta and Salo. Now, Michael Schumacher under pressure, no doubt about it. Lap 45, 11 laps to go. David Coulthard can see the opportunity of a 4th win of the year for him to add to the ones that he already has, and the 4 that Mika Häkkinen has got to make it 9 during the year. And if he was not feeling well before this race, the adrenaline has certainly overcome all. What do you reckon his chances are?
I think his chances of putting Michael under pressure are very, very strong, but I can't really see where he's going to overtake him other than in that turn 2, which is a barging match. And well, he'll get in the slipstream of that Ferrari. We'll have a look at some straight line speeds and see where they are relatively. And we're looking at Coulthard does have the faster car in a straight line, as he did have through free practice. So I do think if David can get near the gearbox, he may be able to have a stab up into the inside, into say the last turn as well, as he closes that gap down to 0.8.
Lap 46 out of 56. Ferrari looking mighty good for the Constructors' Championship, but not necessarily mighty good for a victory. Michael Schumacher in the red Ferrari on the left leads David Coulthard, who has now got the gap down to under 1 second. Michael Schumacher has got to keep all his famous cool, make sure he gets the line right, the braking points right, accelerate away, give David Coulthard no opportunity to get past, because Coulthard, notably in France this year, has demonstrated that he's more than capable of getting past the triple world champion.
Uninterrupted coverage then to the end of this Malaysian Grand Prix. Coulthard with the slightly faster car, both in terms of lap time and in terms of straight line speed by 2 or 3 kilometers per hour. Now, unfortunately, he's in the dirty air zone of that Ferrari, and turn 2 is where he passed Michael Schumacher last year. They're going through turn 2 right now. Clearly nowhere near close enough to even think about it, but he's got 10 laps left to be able to get up on the gearbox, and I think if he can get a good run out of turn 14 down the final straight into the last corner of 15, then I think Coulthard may just have enough kilometers per hour and a good enough car under braking to have a stab at the lead of this Grand Prix.
As you look at Mika Häkkinen in 4th position, who has not closed at all on Rubens Barrichello. There is the Brazilian 3rd place in the Ferrari. The gap between them, 19.6 seconds. So Rubens has got the message, and he's continuing to hold off Mika Häkkinen, and Villeneuve is now lapping it in the BAR to within 1/10 of a second at exactly the same time.
Yeah, so Villeneuve then down in 5th place. As you say, Häkkinen appears to have completely lost momentum after that stop. He's now on the same fuel load as everybody else. But clearly, all cars will have just enough fuel to get them to the end of the race. There will be no further scheduled refueling stops, as we see the Minardi of Matt Saccani from 15th place in the pits. He is the last runner. Ralf Schumacher recently retired out of when he was 16th. So now 7 retirements then in this Grand Prix, and Zonta in the boonies.
Yeah, so no points for him, not that he was likely to. He was in 9th position, but Villeneuve is still holding the fort for BAR. Wurz, the top Benetton, is in 7th position, and Fisichella is down in 12th position.
Nasty place for that car. Clearly an engine failure there for Zonta. No mistake from him, but a nasty place to stop and have a truck into the gravel trap. They're coming in there just under 190 miles an hour with a totally unsatisfactory runoff area there. But Coulthard still homing in on Michael Schumacher. No sign they'll think of the safety car. They will clearly recover that car of Zonta's under double waved yellow flags indicating marshals in the danger zone, and they must slow down. Louise.
We're used to seeing Williams running at the front of the field. Obviously, that's not been the case today. Jensen out earlier on, and as you mentioned, Ralf Schumacher's just retired as well, having spent much of the race running around at the back of the field. It was a problem with his BMW engine. I have to say that's a fairly rare problem with the BMW engine, because they've made a fantastic return to Formula One on the whole. The team will still finish third in the World Championship, and I think at the end of the day, that's something they can feel justly proud about.
Well, Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard are closing now on Giancarlo Fisichella in 12th position, who's battling with Johnny Herbert, and there could be a traffic problem which could change the positions of these two lead cars. Michael Schumacher can see it coming, but of course David Coulthard on the left there can equally see it coming, and they'll be planning ahead to try to work out how best to get past the cars in front without the positions changing from Michael Schumacher's point of view. Lap 49 out of 56. Gap 0.6 of a second. Well, it's visual, look at it.
Yeah, Coulthard with the better car under braking, no doubt about it. 3 to 4 Ks faster down the straight, better under braking. He's losing in the middle sector of this lap through 7, 8 and 9 turns. But I think if he gets a sniff, he needs a bit of a help from back markers or something to get a sniff at Michael down one of these straights. He's got the better car when he gets there, to the end, into those tight corners.
Yeah, Michael knows that as well as David does, and Michael is just as determined to win this race as the Scotsman is, because Michael Schumacher made it very, very clear that unless very unusual circumstances obtained in this event, he was going for his 9th win of the year. He's looking good at the present moment. He's on lap 49. There are the comparative times, and you can see that there's virtually nothing in it at all. They're both lapping now considerably faster than Rubens Barrichello, who is continuing to be caught by Mika Häkkinen, who's got the gap down to 18 seconds. But Häkkinen, even if he closes at a second a lap, which he's doing at the present moment, is not going to be able to get close enough to Barrichello before the end of the race to have a chance of taking third position away from the Ferrari. But now, look, there is the traffic situation, and you see Johnny Herbert and Fisichella being caught by Schumacher there, David Coulthard there, as they come out of the Penang Straight into the Kuala Lumpur Straight.
Yes, that bad stop of Johnny Herbert's cost him 10, 11 seconds and at least 2 places. So Irvine in the sister Jaguar still in a point-scoring position up there in 6th. Johnny unfortunately down in 10th with that appalling stop when they could not get the fuel nozzle out of the car, as Coulthard, as usual, edges closer in 1 and 2. Then you get a yo-yo effect. Obviously, Michael will always be on the throttle. Couple of cars, and who's that off?
That's a big one.
That's a Jaguar. That's a Jaguar off into the barrier, and it looked...
well, the steering wheel is out, so it's Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert, and he's thrown the steering wheel out. That is definitely the Englishman. What an awful way to finish his last Grand Prix in Formula One. But thank heavens he looks perfectly all right. Very bad damage to the car. Here's what happened as Johnny Herbert... Look.
Oh, that's a rare suspension failure. And Johnny, absolutely nothing he can do is hit the brake pedal, and the rear wishbones have given way and just pitched him into the tyre barrier. And a really nasty incident there for Johnny Herbert. There's going to be a lot of carbon fibre debris on the racetrack.
And thank heavens you can see that Johnny, the most popular man in Formula One, without a doubt, seems to be perfectly okay. Has he got a bit of a problem with his leg? Yes, he has, because they're carrying him off the car. We're on lap 50 now, back looking at the battle for the lead temporarily, as Johnny is carried off. The adrenaline got him out of the car. Obviously, I don't know whether it's a sprain or a break, but apart...
And Johnny's ankles are bad enough, aren't they, after that terrible crash he had in F3000. As Coulthard now closer than ever. Is he close enough to get a good tow from that Ferrari down into one? It didn't look it as they came past the commentary box. Will he have a stab down the inside? He is very close when he gets there, but not close enough. There is a bit of traffic ahead of him.
Yeah, and it's Fisichella. Now, Fisichella is on his own. Johnny Herbert, of course, was behind him, has now disappeared. Vicasalo is about 7 seconds up the road. So hopefully Fisichella is keeping an eye on his mirrors, and in which case he will see this approaching. Ferrari, McLaren, lap 51, 5 laps to go at the end of this one.
Wouldn't surprise me at all to see one of these runners this afternoon pick up a puncture from the debris of Johnny Herbert's incident there. That rear suspension failed very early on into the braking zone. There will be a lot of shards of carbon fibre, and I think they're still looking at Johnny. I don't think he's in serious danger, but clearly has hurt his left leg in some way. What a terrible end to his Grand Prix career. That's not fair.
No, it's his 163rd Grand Prix, and he more than deserved to get out of it in the points in good condition. But Fisichella is lapping some 2.3 seconds slower than the two cars bearing down on him, and any moment now he's got...
Yeah, sorry, I was saying Coulthard lost an edge there somewhere in this lap, and it's a crucial lap because it's the one where I believe they're going to clear that back marker, and the one where Coulthard needs to be closest to Michael Schumacher. Will Fisichella yield going into the last corner? No, he will not, and that gives Coulthard the chance to reclose that gap and be there when Michael Schumacher has to clear.
Now he moves over. Yeah, Fisichella sees them, courteously moves over, and the battle now continues. We're on lap 52 in this 56 lap race. The two leaders, Michael Schumacher going for his 9th win of the year, David Coulthard going for his 4th win of the year, have got a clear track in front of them because Mika Salo was some 8 seconds in 9th position ahead of Fisichella, and they are lapping. The time difference between Salo and Michael Schumacher is about 1.5 seconds. So it looks as though, with luck, they're going to have a clear track until the end of the race to resolve this battle. Remember, it was a fantastic battle in the closing stages of the Japanese Grand Prix between Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen. Now it's Michael Schumacher against David Coulthard, Mika Häkkinen's teammate.
Tough call in the Jaguar pit. They got Irvine up there in a 6th place, a point scoring position. They've seen quite clearly a structural failure on Johnny Herbert's car. Did he have a knock earlier on? There was a big drama on lap 1 of the Grand Prix where a lot of cars got together that could have given some damage to Johnny Herbert's car. If I was the Jaguar team boss, I think maybe he's got more information. I guess they'll have to leave Irvine out there.
It's difficult, you know, just looking at television pictures to see what the gap is between them. It looks to me as though Michael Schumacher has got the race under control at the present moment. He's just coming up to complete his 52nd lap, and the gap between them was 0.8 of a second over the painted grid on the tarmac. Now he's very Salo. Maybe I was wrong. They are going to catch Mika Salo as Fisichella in the background recedes into the distance. And yes, the gap has gone up. It's gone up from 0.6 of a second to 1 second, so that's practically doubled it. And Michael Schumacher still leads on lap 53 with Barrichello out on his own. He's still being caught by Mika Häkkinen, but at the rate of about half a second a lap, and he's still 14 seconds ahead of the second McLaren. Race order: Schumacher and Coulthard that you're looking at. Barrichello 14 seconds behind them. Häkkinen 15 seconds behind Barrichello. Villeneuve still in the points. 2 World Championship points, which would equal the Benetton score, and it would therefore be decided on places who'd won the Constructors' Championship and who is 4th in the Constructors' Championship, and I think off the top of my head it would be to Benetton's advantage. Eddie Irvine still, fingers crossed, for that 1 World Championship point, which would really lift the morale at Jaguar to give them something to look forward to over a long, hard winter now under the new management of Bobby Rahal from America, who is going to be in charge of the Jaguar team. And there is Jacques Villeneuve alone on the track. He's 15 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. He's 7 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine, whose car you just saw briefly flash into view in the background, as the leaders are very close to coming through to completing their 53rd lap. No change in the temperature. You heard from Martin earlier on that there was a 25% possibility of rain. Well, thank heavens that has not happened. Jacques Villeneuve, then world champion 1997, who's invested so much of his time, effort, and I'm sure his personal considerable fortune in the BAR team, is at last seeing some return.
I suspect he's added to his personal fortune driving for BAR, but he certainly invested a lot of time and energy, as you say, and Matt Saccani drops out of a current 13th place, so unlucky for him, and only a dozen runners then in this race, which is proving to be a bit of a car breaker.
Retirements in order: Pedro de la Rosa, Pedro Diniz, Nick Heidfeld, Heinz Harald Frentzen. There is Salo being followed by Schumacher, and Coulthard coming up to lap him. Continuing with the retirements: Frentzen, Jenson Button, Genet, Ralf Schumacher and Ricardo Zonta. So both the Williams BMWs out of the last race of the year, as Schumacher now sets about deciding where he's going to get past Mika Salo, who will certainly see the German and the Ferrari in his mirrors and move over.
Michael Schumacher's flat out working away, hacksawing away on the wheel. Coulthard just said the fastest first sector of any lap this afternoon. He is not giving up on this chase in the dying laps of this Malaysian Grand Prix. Coulthard still very much going for it. Had a couple of laps where he appeared to be just falling away slightly, now re-attacking, and the gap down to 0.6 of a second. He took a half a second out of Michael on that previous lap.
54 laps completed, 2 to go, 55 and 56. Yes, certainly David Coulthard took a second out of Michael Schumacher, but to get past the German and the Ferrari when the performance of their cars is virtually identical is going to be an absolutely Herculean task. Barrichello continuing to run in clear air, and clear air behind him in third position. The prospect for Ferrari: 14 World Championship points, 11 more than they need to clinch the Constructors' Championship, as Michael Schumacher keeping cool, trying to in this heat and humidity. But as I said earlier on, he's the fittest man in the race. He said before it began that he expected and hoped that the humidity and the heat would affect him less than virtually all the other drivers, and he's only got about 4.5 miles to go now before the checkered flag and his 9th win of the year. But there's many a slip twixt cup and lip, and I have seen Grand Prix lost at the very last corner. Who'll ever remember, who'll ever forget Monaco, when Jack Brabham had victory stolen from him by Jochen Rindt a long time ago, but the circumstances were not dissimilar.
They've also been lost in a courtroom some weeks after the Grand Prix as well, but hopefully that won't be the case this afternoon. A classic duel then between Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard, and Schumacher then seems to have the upper hand when it matters as he heads into the final lap.
Final lap 56 in Malaysia. Now, David Coulthard will never give up, of that you can be absolutely sure. There is a contingent of people from his hometown, Twynham in Scotland, here to watch this race. They could hardly have hoped to watch a better one from their point of view, except, of course, seeing David Coulthard somehow scramble past Michael Schumacher to win the Malaysian Grand Prix. It is looking less and less likely, because Schumacher's just got a few corners to go now between himself and that historic victory, which is surely going to be his after an absolutely magnificent year for Ferrari. It will be 9 wins for Schumacher, 1 win for Barrichello, 10 wins in all. The Drivers' World Championship for the 3rd time for Schumacher. The Constructors' World Championship again for Ferrari, and he is almost home.
And they're still in the 1:39s at the end of this race. It's last year's record lap. They've been doing that all through the afternoon. Absolutely incredible pace in this Grand Prix, as the new Bridgestone tyres are working extremely well. It's lifted the pace, and these drivers certainly have maybe the World Championship was over for the drivers, Murray, but they have not given an inch this afternoon.
The Ferrari flags, as everywhere, are waving as Michael Schumacher enters the last corner of the last lap to win the last Grand Prix of the year 2000 in glorious style for himself and Ferrari. Schumacher wins in Malaysia as he won in Japan and America and Italy. He has won 4 races on the trot now, to add to the other 5 races that he had previously won this year. In the background you see Rubens Barrichello making it a glorious 1st and 3rd for Maranello for Ferrari to give them the World Constructors' Championship without a shadow of a doubt, with 11 points clear on top of the 13 advantage that they already had. Mika Häkkinen, there he is in 4th position. A superb drive. Remember that time penalty that he had. And Jacques Villeneuve is going to come through and finish in 5th position. 2 World Championship points. It's going to be nip and tuck as to whether Benetton or BAR take that crucial 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. And Eddie Irvine will be in 6th position to score again for Jaguar.
So McLaren lost 16 points, 6 from Coulthard's disqualification in the Brazilian Grand Prix, and 10 after Häkkinen's technical problem in the Austrian Grand Prix. So still, Ferrari would have won that world title with that point advantage.
Schumacher the winner, Barrichello in the 2nd Ferrari 3rd, and driving along behind them in the silver and black McLaren Mercedes, Scotland's David Coulthard, followed by Mika Häkkinen. So again, it's been the 2 Ferraris and the 2 McLarens that have dominated proceedings. A great win, a great 5th position for Jacques Villeneuve and BAR, and a 6th for Jaguar with Eddie Irvine. As I've said, they've got a winter ahead of them now. There's going to be no testing in the month of November, but they'll all be starting again in December to get ready for the new season in 2001, to start it all over again. More Grand Prix, starting with the first of the year, of course, in Australia. We're back in Malaysia very quickly indeed, because it's going to be the 2nd Grand Prix of the year and not the last as it is this year. But here today, this man, Michael Schumacher, has dominated proceedings as he has done so many times in the past. A copybook drive, I think. Well, hats off to McLaren, who have fought this season to the last turn of the wheel. But what a wonderful season for Ferrari and for Michael. Very happy Schumacher there.
Good drive from Irvine in 6th, and Coulthard will be well pleased with himself, I think. A strong drive there, making Michael Schumacher work very, very hard for this. He won the first 3 races of the season, and Michael has also won the last 4 of the season. And well, as you say, great time for him. And Barrichello there had a pretty good time. He ended up 18 seconds off of the lead at the end. Mika Häkkinen 35 seconds off the lead. So it does seem today that, contrary to last year, the 2 stoppers did have an advantage. Remember, Mika 1 stop but had a stop and go penalty. Even so, judging by his pace, he would not have won the race.
And I hope he's not going to put that red wig on. Put that red wig on. I think he is. My gosh, he has. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello not looking as though he has too much of a problem with the flu at the present moment. As I said, adrenaline overcomes all. Comment unnecessary?
Isn't it, I think I'm worth it, or something like that?
So the two scarlet McLarens and the one silver and black McLaren Mercedes proudly occupy Parc Fermé, and there above the FIA garage is the podium which they will all be climbing, the three of them, for the last time this year. Between them, they've been there so many times. All those wins for Michael Schumacher, the single win for Barrichello, the wins for Mika Hakkinen and for David Coulthard, who have shared their wins in the McLaren team much more closely than Ferrari have with Schumacher and Barrichello, because Michael Schumacher has 9 to Barrichello's 1. But the Brazilian has the joy of knowing that in his first season with Ferrari, he's won his first Grand Prix. Well, you know what the Constructors' Championship situation is. Ferrari have won it, McLaren have second. Williams have finished in third position, and no one thought that was going to happen when this season began, when they had a completely new engine with BMW, who have had a magnificent Grand Prix return year after being out since 1983. Now, Benetton and BAR tie on 20 points, and I honestly don't know which of them, and one of them, in spite of them tying, is going to be before the other, because places will be taken into account. Now, the highest Benetton place was that of Fisichella, who was second in Brazil, and he's had a couple of thirds. And off the top of my head, and this is by no means official, I think that Benetton will have just pipped BAR for fourth place.
Yes, I think you're right. I think Benetton on cam back will keep that fourth place in the championship. Don't know what happened to Wirtz, actually, running so well early on. Didn't see him have any problems, but ended up some 18 seconds off of Villeneuve's pace. Irvine just 1.8 seconds. Jean Todt there on his mobile phone, and yes.
There were 50,000 people at Maranello during the Japanese Grand Prix when Schumacher got the Drivers' Championship. I expect they're all there now.
The pink bow is a bit worrying, isn't it, in John Todt's wig there?
But I think they're entitled to anything.
Have you any idea what the red wig's all about, Murray?
No, I haven't. There's obviously some hidden meaning, but I don't know what it is. No one let on that this was going to happen. But they don't tell you, of course, because they think it'll be bad luck if they... there's Willie Weber in the background, who is Michael Schumacher's multi-millionaire manager.
Yes, there's no significance apparently, according to James, and Willie Webber being the only person who actually looks better in the red wig than standard. But I think it's just James thinks it's just because it's red, like everything else at Ferrari.
My lawyer's letter will be following. Now into the Parc Fermé. I don't think that's going to be very popular with the FIA, the governing body. A bit of a mass invasion of the Parc Fermé, which is supposed to be and is indeed hallowed ground, because nobody is allowed to touch or get at the cars until they have been scrupulously checked in every possible direction. And the drivers now, for instance, are being weighed to make sure that the combined weight of the car and driver is not below the required minimum. Tony Harlow there, who works for the fuel supplier for the McLaren team. Well, Malaysia has seen a good second Grand Prix. I said when this broadcast began that welcome to the finest Grand Prix circuit in the world. Grand Prix racing needs a bit of building in Malaysia. They've got the location, which is absolutely magnificent in Sepang. And now with a couple of races like the one we had last year, and all the drama that followed it when Ferrari were excluded from first and second places, Eddie Irvine and Michael Schumacher, because of an infringement with the aerodynamic barge boards, only for that to be turned round and then given their places. And now they've had this race. That, believe it or not, are the eyes of Jean Todt, looking coy. And I think, yes, out onto the podium, the winner, the second place man, and the third, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. Michael
happy as ever. Just to give you a quick update on Johnny Herbert, he's not on the podium, of course. He has had an X-ray on his left leg as a precaution. We don't know the result of that X-ray.
Ferrari with a glorious return win both championships. The drivers for Schumacher, the constructors for Ferrari, and the Italian national anthem. Well, Michael Schumacher got, I must say, from my point of view, a lot of killjoy criticism for having the temerity to conduct the Italian national anthem after he won in Japan, and he very cautiously stands silently whilst it is played on this occasion. And he now receives the winner's trophy from Dr. Mahathir, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, and the man so responsible for the origination and development of this magnificent location at Sepang. Ross Brawn, the architect of victory so many times for Ferrari, as he was at Benetton with Michael Schumacher, receives the Constructors' Award. David Coulthard, the second place, just now to complete what has been a wonderful season of 17 rounds of Formula One Grand Prix racing, the third place trophy to Rubens Barrichello.
My son Alex would say decent. Good afternoon sport, good contest, and a pity Häkkinen had that stop and go really, because I think he would have been right in the action there amongst the top three. So that's the only spoiler on the day, as Ross Brawn, complete with red wig, gets his.
He won't mind. It's a small price to pay to be drenched in champagne after a year like this.
Congratulations to the three redheads of Ferrari.
A warm welcome to the top 3 finishing drivers for the last Grand Prix of the 2000 season, the Malaysian Grand Prix. It's Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. Michael, many congratulations. The Constructors' Championship, your 9th win this season, equals the record. It must be because you're worth it.
Thanks to remind me to our L'Oreal advertise. Yeah, you see, he's doing good. Huh? Yes, we wanted to win this race. We did it. A very tough race, a very tight race. I mean, DC really pushed from the first to the last lap. So did I, and that meant a flat-out race, very, very tough physically, car-wise and everything. And yeah, we did it. We won the Constructor Championship after all. Not by just taking 3 points, by winning and becoming 3rd. That's just, I think, the right result, what the team deserves, honestly, to my view.
Now, obviously, at the end of the first lap, you must have been rather surprised to see both McLarens in front of you. Did you know that Mika had jumped the start?
No, I mean, I can't look in the mirrors at this moment, and he's just behind me, these 8 meters, 10 meters, so for me it's impossible to see the same as when David had the same situation in India. I cannot judge that, because you concentrated on the light and on what you're doing, and then you start to watch 2 other guys, what they do. I didn't have a very good start. I mean, I was suffering, not really to get off well enough. Not of wheel spin, just not got a good going. But anyway, I mean, we went 3rd after DC outbraked me from the outside, and then we just had to watch what the strategy can do for us.
Now, you actually set your personal fastest lap at the end of the first stint. You never really went fast again in the following 2. Was it because you're just controlling the race, or did the car go off slightly?
No. It might be the tyres. The tyres become better when they get older. It could be a factor. And I did more laps on my first set than I did on the other set of tyres. I guess it's that. Plus, in the last stint, I mean, I saw the gap. I judged it, and obviously you don't go for 100% because you don't want to make a mistake, and doing 100% drive is easy, so you just go this little bit slower, which means the lap times are a little bit less.
Thanks, Michael. David, so near yet so far. You were pushing all the time, and a very, very different strategy from your teammate. I mean, how did McLaren come up with that idea?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't intend stopping anywhere near as early as lap 18, but when I ran off the circuit coming out of turn 6, I filled the left-hand side of the car with grass, and the temperatures were going up for 5 laps, and then it sort of stabilised. But the team felt it was better to take the gamble, and even though we knew obviously we'd lose time, it was better to lose time and make sure you could guarantee the engine would make it to the end. So it's disappointing, because then it could have been a bit closer, but that's the way it works out. If I should have kept the car on the circuit.
Now, at the end of the race in the weigh-in, we saw you having a quick word with Michael. What did you say?
Well, to be honest, I was just apologising to Michael for the year. You know, we've had some differences, and I'm embarrassed that sometimes I was maybe saying things too publicly and not going to talk to him face to face. And it was just really we're at the end of the season, to apologise for that and to say he's a great champion, and I look forward to competing against him next season.
David, thank you very much. Rubens, a very strong 3rd place, especially considering you've not been feeling well all weekend. I mean, how were the conditions out there today?
Well, the conditions were hot, and as you said, I still have a little bit of flu, and I was worried at the beginning of the race, because my conditions were not great, but the car felt great the whole time, and I could keep quite well the pace. I lost time on my second pit stop due to the fact that I couldn't get first gear, which was a shame because I was closer to the battle. But I'm pleased. My season went very well, and to finish a strong 3rd position in this race means we're going to start next year in a good position as well.
Rubens, thank you. Michael, after Suzuka, you said you hadn't planned a party. I believe there's a huge party planned tonight. Do you intend to let your hair down?
I tend to change my colour, but I don't see the point for taking away the hair. I mean, whoever wants to do that, it's fine, but that's not my intention. I think you can celebrate in different ways, and we will celebrate I think, in a big way tonight. The poor guys have first now to pack up everything because everything has to be shipped out tomorrow. It's a bit of a shame after such a race and year that you can't just let off. I mean, these guys have to continue working. But then after they finished, hopefully early tonight, we then going to have a big party.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jennifer. Now a word from Michael and Rubens, your own languages, please. Michael first.
Ja, zuallererst möchte ich mich bei denen bedanken, die mich das ganze Jahr über kräftig unterstützt haben. Vor allem, was ich mitbekommen habe nach dem Japan-Rennen in meine Heimat, Grüße senden nach Kerpen in die Stadthalle, sowohl als auch zur Go-Kart-Bahn in Kerpen-Mannheim, wo jetzt, Mannheim und Sindorf zu meiner Karthalle, wo jetzt ganz viele Leute sind, die aus früheren Zeiten mich schon sehr gut kennen und mir schon immer geholfen haben. Es gibt da, auch wenn ich jetzt einige Namen wahrscheinlich vergessen werde, ein paar Namen, die ich ganz besonders nennen möchte. Und es gab da einen Mann ganz am Anfang, der, glaube ich, mit einer der wichtigsten Menschen war, die mir geholfen haben. Das war der Gerhard Noack damals. Wir sehen uns nicht allzu oft, aber ich möchte gern von hier aus die Grüße loswerden. Ich hoffe, dass ich das demnächst auch nochmal persönlich machen kann. Sowie den Jürgen Dilk, der mir auch extrem viel geholfen hat in meiner Karriere. Und nicht zu vergessen Willi Weber. Ich glaube, das sind die 3 wichtigsten Leute. Natürlich neben meinen Eltern, die allerwichtigsten waren, ganz klar. Also Grüße an alle, alles Liebe und Dankeschön.
Thank you, Michael. And Rubens.
Obviamente eu queria falar que eu estou muito contente, acho que acabei uma corrida muito difícil, em uma posição muito forte. A parte Hockenheim, eu acho que essa foi uma das minhas melhores corridas. Eu mantive um gap muito pequeno entre os líderes e por saber que o Michael estava puxando muito forte, me deixa muito contente. Eu não passei muito bem o final de semana inteiro, então tive muitas preocupações de saber se eu acabaria essa corrida na forma como eu estou. Então, muito alegre de terminar o ano, um ano que foi muito bom para mim, e com 62 pontos eu saio daqui muito contente.
Gentlemen, thanks very much.